The air was thick with dust and the smell of gunpowder as the Jeep rumbled across the French countryside. A crew of American soldiers gripped their weapons tightly, eyes scanning the horizon. The roar of a distant German machine gun cut through the air, a reminder of the deadly forces just out of sight. The wind tugged at their uniforms, but the tension was suffocating. As the Jeep sped through the uneven terrain, the soldier in the back steadied a captured German MG-42, its metal glinting under the weak sunlight. The weapon was mounted on a makeshift pedestal, an adaptation born of necessity. He locked eyes with his comrades. They knew the plan. This was no ordinary patrol. This was their answer to the relentless fire that had been wearing them down. World War II, a global conflict that spanned from 1939 to 1945, was a time of technological innovation, brutal combat, and strategic adaptation. The war involved numerous nations, each vying for control, survival, and power. The United States, initially neutral, joined the Allies after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. The U.S. military, like the other forces involved, was forced to adapt and innovate constantly in order to survive. Every conflict, every battle, and every moment on the battlefield pushed soldiers and commanders to find new ways to exploit the technology and weapons at their disposal. In 1944, the Allies had successfully stormed the beaches of Normandy, opening up a second front in Europe. The German forces, though reeling from losses, were still formidable. The Germans had perfected many aspects of warfare, and one of their most terrifying weapons was the MG-42 machine gun. Nicknamed Hitler's buzzsaw by the Allies, this weapon was infamous for its rapid rate of fire, devastating accuracy, and fearsome sound. Designed to be versatile, it could be used in a variety of roles, from infantry support to mounted positions on vehicles. In fact, the MG-42 was one of the most advanced machine guns of the war, capable of firing up to 1,200 rounds per minute. This was nearly double the rate of fire of many Allied machine guns. The MG-42 was, however, not invincible. Despite its power, the Germans could not afford to keep up with the vast amount of ammunition it consumed. When American forces began encountering German positions in the Normandy hedgerows and the dense forests of the Ardennes, they quickly realized that the MG-42 was both a deadly threat and a valuable asset. Over the course of the summer and autumn of 1944, U.S. soldiers began experimenting with mounting captured MG-4 to belts on their own vehicles, particularly Jeeps. This was not a pre-planned strategy, but rather an evolution born out of necessity. As soldiers began to seize German weapons and equipment, they saw an opportunity to turn the enemy's strength against them. For the American soldier, capturing a German machine gun meant acquiring a powerful tool, but mounting it on a Jeep was a gamble. At the time, Jeeps were not equipped with heavy machine guns. They were used primarily for reconnaissance, transport, and small-scale assaults. The addition of an MG-42 belt could turn a simple Jeep into a mobile death machine, providing a level of firepower that was both unexpected and overwhelming. Soldiers mounted the MG-42 on Jeeps in improvised ways-on makeshift stands, on gun mounts, or even simply handheld. The result was a highly effective, though imperfect, solution. The MG-42 could now be used to lay down suppressing fire, clearing bunkers, and cutting down enemy infantry in the open. On the human front, soldiers faced the constant pressure of time and limited resources. They had to act fast. Tactical ingenuity was as important as firepower. In the heat of battle, there was little room for hesitation. As American soldiers advanced into German-held territory, they found themselves increasingly relying on the weapons they captured. The MG-42, with its rapid rate of fire and devastating power, became a symbol of this resourcefulness. Soldiers would often find themselves under heavy fire, and the ability to quickly convert a Jeep into a mobile weapons platform allowed them to answer back with force. Tactically, the idea of mounting a captured MG-42 on a Jeep was brilliant in its simplicity. The MG-42, capable of raking entire fields with bullets, would complement the mobility of the Jeep. The Jeep could move quickly, offering a hit-and-run capability that larger, slower vehicles couldn't match. A few soldiers could turn a small Jeep into a weapon of fear, able to challenge infantry and light vehicles alike. The MG-42's firepower, combined with the Jeep's speed, made it a versatile and unexpected threat. By using the MG-42, American forces added a new layer of unpredictability to their operations. From the enemy's perspective, the sight of a jeep with a German MG-42 mounted on it must have been both confusing and terrifying. The Germans knew their weapons were superior, but they did not expect the Allies to turn their own tools against them. The MG-42, as feared as it was, had its limitations. It required a lot of ammunition and was heavy to move. When the Americans mounted it on a jeep, however, they had effectively made it mobile. The Germans were faced with the challenge of defending against not only the traditional artillery and infantry, but also a new type of warfare, one in which the Allies took advantage of the speed and power of their captured weapons. The turning point came in late 1944 during the Battle of the Bulge, the last major German offensive on the Western Front. In the dense forests of the Ardennes, American forces were ambushed by German troops. The terrain was rough, and the weather was unforgiving. But the mobility of the jeeps with MG-42s mounted on them gave the Allies a distinct advantage. These jeeps could navigate the rough terrain faster than any tank or armored vehicle could, and their firepower helped turn the tide in several key skirmishes. As German forces advanced, they found themselves increasingly under fire from these unpredictable mobile weapons platforms. The impact of this innovation was immediate and significant. The MG-42-equipped jeeps proved invaluable in counterattacks, providing American forces with the firepower they needed to repel the German assault. The ability to strike quickly, to disrupt enemy lines, and to lay down suppressive fire on key positions became a tactical advantage. This marked a key moment in the war, where adaptation and resourcefulness became as important as brute force. The jeeps with the MG-42s mounted on them weren't just a curiosity. They were a new and effective tool in the arsenal of the U.S. military. The aftermath of this change was profound. As the war in Europe progressed into 1945, the use of mounted MG-42s on jeeps became more widespread. American forces had learned to adapt to the ever-changing battlefield, using captured enemy weapons in ways their creators had never imagined. The innovation allowed the Allies to hold their ground and push forward with a new type of tactical flexibility. The presence of the MG-42 on jeeps also marked a shift in military doctrine. The idea that speed and firepower could be combined in such an unconventional way led to new strategies for mechanized warfare, influencing future conflicts. The cost of this innovation, however, was not insignificant. American forces continued to face high casualties as the war raged on. The Germans, too, adapted their tactics and technologies in response. But the American use of captured German weapons demonstrated a key lesson. In warfare, adaptability can be just as important as firepower. The ability to seize and repurpose the enemy's strengths to turn their own technology against them was a key factor in the eventual Allied victory. The story of the MG-42 on jeeps is a story of ingenuity, adaptation, and the unpredictable nature of warfare. It teaches us that, even in the darkest moments of conflict, the will to survive and the ability to adapt can make all the difference. The U.S. soldiers who mounted the MG-42s on their jeeps did not do so out of a desire to flaunt military superiority. They did so because they understood that in war, every advantage counts. The lesson they taught the world is simple yet profound. In the chaos of battle, the power to adapt can often be the deciding factor.